Hi everyone, this is Lori from Wet Silver Photography. A friend of mine wanted to know how to batch process a whole bunch of pictures. And let me tell you, you need an action. If you're wanting to do the same thing to a bunch of pictures and you're not doing it in RAW, because RAW, you can do the same thing to a bunch of pictures in RAW. It's a different process. But if you're wanting to run an action on an entire group of pictures, like you need to make the exact same adjustments on a bunch of pictures, the way you do that is you create an action and then you run the action on the entire group of pictures. So the first thing you need to do is figure out what you want to do to this picture. So she has this picture of this girl, and it's the exact same picture over and over holding different things. So you need to make the same adjustments to this. And so you're going to start by creating an action. So you create new action. That's this little button down here. Name it. In this case, I'm going to name this one Beth, because that's my friend. And so now I'm recording this action. And so it's going to record everything that I do to this. So the first thing that I'm going to do is lighten this up. Now, a lot of the things I would have done to this picture in RAW, but let's just say you're doing this, right? Like you've opened it up, you need to make all these adjustments. You've already done what you're going to do in RAW. So bring the exposure up a little bit, okay? Then the next thing I'm going to do is do a little bit of color adjustments. There's a lot of ways to do it. In this case, I can see that on this A&M banner she's holding up, there's white. That is white, so you can trust that to be white. Now, you can use your color adjustment slider, or you can use curves, set the gray point, and click that. Oh, that did not work out so well on that one, did it? No. Okay, never mind, scratch that. So you can delete that curves level. We can hit color balance. So more often than not, if you can find a true white and hit the gray, select the gray point, it will white balance the whole picture for you. Doesn't always work. Anyway, so you hit color balance on this one. You can tell it's a little bit cool and a little bit pink. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take some of that pink out. So we're going to move this slider over just a little bit. And it's still a little bit cool. We got too much green, right? It's a little too pink. So I'm going to add a little bit of yellow. And I'm going to move that from blue to red. So we took out magenta, but we're adding red, which of course is slightly different than magenta. Magenta has a little bit of blue in it, right? So I'll move this over. Now, a lot of this is just playing it by ear. You're looking at it and you're going, what looks good? Well, this looks good. I'm going to add a little more red and a little more yellow and a little less blue, right? Now, we don't want it turning too green, so we got to be very careful of that. So I'm just playing with these color sliders. And you can, if you want to see some before and after, you can click this little eyeball. It's a, layer visibility. The eyeball's there, so it's visible. Click the eyeball and it's invisible. So you see, you can change it. And the color on that looks pretty good. And so the other thing I would do to this is I always like to check my levels. So there's your levels. We know that it's a little dark. You can tell by the fact that the hill's over here on the dark side, right? So we can lighten this up. Now what this does over here is it just lightens the highlights, right? So if you're going to do that, do it just a little bit, not much. Because notice there's still a little bit of volume over here. It's not completely flat. So maybe just bring those highlights up a little bit. If you're wanting to do it, this middle part is these are your midpoints. So this works more in the shadows, so you can lighten up the whole picture. I would leave that alone. Anyway, so there we have it. We have all of those together. If you want to see what all the adjustments look like, you can hit Control-G and it'll group them. And then you can click that eyeball right there and see the before and after overall. I mean, there's quite a few ways to see before and after overall, right? Now, I wouldn't necessarily have done all that if I weren't trying to show somebody. I'd have, started my action over because this is going to do every single thing we did to each picture, right? And so let's go ahead and hit stop. And we have that. Well, I'm not going to hit stop yet. What I'm going to do, because I know I want exactly this done on every picture, you can go ahead and compress those images, Control-Shift-E or Command if you're on a Mac, Shift-E, and it compresses them. And then stop. That way it can actually save it. If there's no extra layers there, it can save it for you pretty easily. So I'm going to hit stop right here. Okay? Now that action is complete. That one is right there. It says Beth. We can go to History, and we can open up. We can go back to the original picture, right? And run that action. See what it looks like. Make sure there's nothing wonky with it. Let's see, where was it? Where did I put Beth? Now I gotta find her again. Oh, there we are. Up here, I stuck her under default. I didn't pay any attention to what set I put them under, but here we go. So Beth, run that. It's gonna do literally everything. Bam, there you have the whole picture. So now you could either open up each picture individually, hit play, and it'll do that for each one. But if you have a group of images, now my issue right now is that, you know, I stole this one image to show her on, but you can go to your bridge, Adobe Bridge, and look at all your images. So let's say she has a bunch of images she wants to do step 2, right? So you select them. You select all the ones that you want to do exactly that action to. I'm hitting Control to select more than one, right? Then you come up here into Tools, Photoshop, Image Processor. And from here, it's going to ask me, well, I remember I put it under default actions, right? So I'm going to click that set, and I'm going to find Beth. And then I'm going to hit Run. Now, I'm actually going to do this to the images just to show you. So it's going to pull up every one of mine. No, it's going to jack them all up because it's not the same image. But it's going to run all those actions on each one of those pictures. And what it'll do is it'll save them into a separate folder that says JPEG, because it's going to save them all as JPEGs. I know I picked some random pictures, y'all. But that's how you run one action on a bunch of, that's how you batch process. And so when it's done, see, I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing, and now it's done. You see it's not coming up anymore. Now if you look at this set, see this folder that says JPEG? It has had, now it's obviously the wrong action to use on these pictures, but it has run that action on each one of these and saved it as a JPEG into this separate folder. So that's how you do that. That's how you make all the same adjustments on a group of pictures, and it'll save them in a separate folder. And if that's literally all you need to do to that, then your images are good to go. If that is how you're ending it, you shot them in RAW. If you're opening them up in RAW and you shot them in RAW and you're doing this and you want those pictures to be ready to go, make sure that before you finish that action, you also do something to sharpen them. Do not forget RAW images haven't had that sharpening that a camera will do to them before they compress them to JPEG. You always need to sharpen them slightly before you send them to print. And if you have any questions, feel free to hit me up, and make sure you subscribe to my